Love Goes by Sam Smith. It is 17 songs, 57 minutes long. It was pushed back a bit. I think it was due in like March or time right before the pandemic.
Yeah, it was
I
due in
believe.
March or April. The album was originally going to be titled To Die For.
To Die For, yeah.
And it was around that time when COVID was just starting to branch out. And we covered this a lot on Audioface,
Yeah.
where concerts had to get moved around, album releases had to get pushed around. And we got back to a new normal where the album releases are back. But Sam Smith was one of those that was going to come out late. And I don't think the whole album was redone, but definitely aspects of it was rethought because of COVID.
Yeah.
Sam Smith even said that they didn't, I'll use they them pronouns because that's how Sam Smith goes. But Sam Smith said that they felt that to release an album called To Die For during a pandemic is not a good look. At least there are some
good look, Granddad.
Yeah, at least there are some like wealthy celebrities who have like half of a clue, unlike the Kardashians, who are more on that later. But yeah, Sam Smith finally released their full album. It's 57 minutes long, and it's got a lot of it there. I like their voice, and I like that there's a good selection of different genres within here, especially like a lot of callbacks to electronic. It's a very like dancey sort of record.
There's just a lot of pop cliche, which is my issue with it.
Yeah.
But it's the one good thing is, and I wanted a more deviation from his past two albums, which were a little bit more slower down, more of their voice was more prevalent into it. But this was kind of like that pull of, okay, let's now make more pop, some more dancey stuff, which I do enjoy, but then trying to change it up a little bit, which is good because, as you know, as we always say on Audioface, try to change it up, especially when you're a big name artist and as popular as Sam Smith is, you need to push it forward and see what you can do.
And just to like set things up a little bit, so Sam Smith, we talked about in the disclosure bonus with Latch and how that blew up. But around that time, In the Lonely Hour was Sam Smith's first like proper
about a
LP.
year after Latch was released, or
roughly. Yeah,
years.
this was 2014. Latch was 12, 13.
Yeah, around
so
there. It was a couple
that came
years
out
after, and then that album blew up.
Yeah, it's
fantastic.
To this day is Sam Smith's best-selling project, performing project, and the thrill of it all sonically had a similar sort of thing where it was poppy, kind of sadder, very more focused on the vocals and
more acoustics. The production of it was a lot more cut. It wasn't as prevalent and stuff. And this one is more of, you work with those producers that can make pop and stuff, and you can definitely hear that in it, which is for better and for worse at the same time. There's a lot of stuff that annoyed me with the album, where, you know, my favorite thing on God's Flat Green Earth, which is the boom snap clap thing.
Yeah.
And there was in like 4 or 5 songs, like, oh God, please don't do that.
Pretty unavoidable.
And it was, so that part disappointed me, but there are some songs in here that were fantastic. So, like example, so we'll jump in. So it starts off with Yun, which is basically just a little vocal prelude, and it's gorgeous, and I love Sam's voice.
Yeah, it's a nice a cappella thing. It's really kind of daring to start off the album that way, but they've got the vocals to be able to bring that up.
And then Diamonds is right after that, which is a song that's blown up because it was released earlier this year, and I've heard it a bunch, and it's a solid pop song for 2020. It has all like the cliche stuff, you know, with the boom snap clap thing, and it has other production and stuff, but the vocals and the lyrics in there are like, okay, if this is what you want pop to be, then this is okay for it. But the problem is there's a lot of other stuff that we've heard throughout the year that is so much better in that regard. But it's decent for like a very, very popular pop song that came out this year for sure. So it's okay.
It's doing that thing that new pop has done recently, where it's calling back from 70s and 80s funk and disco.
Yes.
I forget the name of Pharrell Williams' like other collab thing, but they released a song earlier this year that had a similar vibe to this. I'll get back to it later, but it's Pharrell Williams collaborating with someone else, and they together made a thing that sounded a lot like this.
Yeah, and then you have another one right after that, which just again has kind of like that similar sound in that regard, but a little bit slower down. But it still has like the upbeat pop beat or halfway through, and a little bit more dancey, which I do like. After that, you have My Oasis, which is interesting because it's featuring Burna Boy. Who, I don't know who Burna Boy is, or I might have heard him before. But anyways, he started doing trap and B into that song, which I still don't know how I feel about that, because that genre is, to me, hit or miss, really. Some people make it great, some people make it kind of whiny, but it was interesting within the context of the album because you have those like, you start off slow, you have then 2 pop beats into it, then you go into trap and B. I'm like, okay, let's see how it keeps continuing. Still not completely sold on that part. So Serious after that is more of like your pop. That's like your standard pop song again into it, which is okay. So by that point in the album, I was starting to feel a little jaded in that regard because I know there's a lot of good work and stuff that he's done before, and I'm like, okay, let's see what if he could do more, or if it's just gonna be that cookie cutter part, which I really didn't like. But then you have Dance Till You Love Someone Else, and
Yes,
that's like an amazing, good dance track right there. I really like it. I don't know who produced it,
I know.
but who?
One Guy Lawrence.
That fucking makes all the
I was
sense
like,
in the world. Because I was gonna ask, I'm like, I wonder if Disclosure made this because it sounds a little bit like a thing that they would make.
yeah, this is another example in which Disclosure and Sam Smith oftentimes will get together off of a regular Disclosure album, and they
Yes.
will make music together. It'll sound very different from Disclosure, which is good because I
Yes,
think
because you don't want it to be Disclosure-y sound because then it just stands out too much in the context of a Sam Smith
yeah,
album.
that's a thing that Howard is doing or trying to do, especially, is make sure that he can produce things that stand out from Disclosure because it's very easy. Disclosure has a very distinct sound.
Yes, and you can make it sound like it. So that was the thing because I listened to it, I'm like, it's just fantastic. I wonder if they had an input on it, but it doesn't sound too much like them in that regard. So it makes sense.
Yeah.
And the concept of the album, it's perfect because it is a really good breaker from all the other, I was gonna say, cliche sounds of 2020. Because the first, after Yun, the 4 songs right after that were like every hit thing you could put in 2020. So you have your trap and beat, you have your standard pop, you have your love woes, your relationship stuff and whatnot. Which I mean, I do like how Sam Smith does it. Other people, I think, whine a little too much. But Dance to You Love Someone Else, fantastic. And then
Yeah.
right after that, you have it slows down for The Lover That I Lost. And it goes back into like the almost his first album vibes where you have like an orchestral background and stuff, a piano, a voice. I'm like, okay, I'm good. They started to break it up a little bit because I didn't want it to be pop, 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 pop straight through.
Yeah, that's definitely really good. I like that as an album, it's constructed well together. That's always something I'm looking for, and it has this kind of calmer piano thing that goes down. And even in through you get through what my favorite song might be is "Love Goes" with
Yep,
Labyrinth in
I
the
was
middle.
gonna say I actually really enjoyed that song.
Starts with
'Cause-
piano in the
yeah.
beginning, really nice, sort of getting it all out melody. The melody kind of falls into place slowly with drums and everything, and it becomes a really nice song. And then in the middle, there's this big trumpet, sort of, you expect it
Yes.
from Labyrinth very much. I'm interested to see how you like that part, because that almost turns into like a hypey, typey EDM thing.
It's okay because it's something different because it's something that he hasn't done before that much, and I wanted to see what like because I know Labyrinth does that where he's known for big hyphy typhy like booming sounds and whatnot. That's what he does, but within the Sam Smith song, it's interesting because it's like a little understated hyphy typhy. Like it's the trumpets are blaring, but it's not like too into your face to where it's over blaring and it's overdone. It's just the right enough into it to where it fits in the album. Which
Yeah.
is one thing that I give Sam a lot of credit for is there are a lot of different sounds in it, but it's actually all quite cohesive, which is good. So you
Yeah.
have obviously what I already said with all the pop sounds, you have some dance tracks, you have some slower down tracks, but everything connects together. It is a little long, a little lengthy, and there is some stuff I think that at the end you could have cut or at the beginning you could have like thrown out there and it would have made it a little bit better. But every song does go together, which is nice.
Yeah, even on desktop Spotify, there are like 2 discs of this, but the 2 discs doesn't really sort of break it up in any sort of way. It's like the last 3 or 4 songs are also that disc. It doesn't feel like where disc 1 ends is really the end, and it doesn't feel like it's not like Humans or the previous Disclosure album
Yeah.
where there's a very like
Distinct,
distinct
yeah.
separation between the two. But yeah, the songs themselves are all fairly good. Another sleeper was "How Do You Sleep," which I hadn't heard all year, even though I knew it was a single that had come
Oh
out.
yeah.
Way like better than I expected it to be in the middle as well. Kind of going through that. It's kind of like again. I don't know if I like love it, but I like that Sam Smith is going into a different world.
When
of
I heard
sound.
it, I don't remember if we reviewed it. We either reviewed this or To Die For. I don't remember. But I did not like How Do You Sleep, and it's in the context of the album, it makes more sense because when I first heard it, it was such a pivot from all his previous works. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
let me see how the sound is. But now I'm still not sold on it because
Yeah.
I guess I'm too picky.
I definitely like the sort of like EDM-y drop thing that it does, but I also find that happens in other parts of this album where it happens
Exactly.
better.
Yeah.
Definitely the Labyrinth song and definitely Dance Till You Love Someone Else with its the Secret Disclosure thing. So it's like a solid album. The way I describe this genre is that I would, okay, connotations with all of the terms aside, I think Sam Smith is R&B because I
Yes,
categorize R&B as
100%.
less, especially contemporary R&B, as less driven or held back by the exact sounds and production because it's usually a singer-songwriter who takes
Yes.
whatever sounds they want. Usually they're contemporary, they're from modern electronic music or modern trap and B, and those things are influenced by 70s
So
house
much,
and
so
disco
much,
and
yeah.
funk and soul and all these
Jazz
different
and
things.
so
So
much.
you see all these pieces there, but you are less really the less so than the production. That's not really a through thing. The through point is that all these songs and throughout all these genres tend to be about love and that broad context
Yes.
of anything about that. And because we review a lot of albums that are either theoretically or very distinctly about love, this one goes through again, as I would expect Sam Smith to do, some of the deeper aspects of that. So it's not just relationship here, relationship gone,
Yeah,
whatever,
yeah, no,
whatever.
it
It's
goes
like
into the deep
loss
human
and
emotion.
jealousy and how you feel when you see someone you like with someone better and like accepting that. And there's just better paths that these go that I guarantee Ariana Grande didn't go down. And a lot of other artists this year that I expected better from like Kalani, for example.
Kalani, yeah, and Kalani fell flat in that regard.
Yeah.
Because it's also like a reflection inwards and being okay with yourself in other regards and stuff too.
Yeah.
And there's more of that music which we'll get to later on in the podcast too. I'm Ready with Demi Lovato. It's a decent song. It got really blown up popular. It's okay. I think their voices are really good together and the production is all right. The last song is interesting because it's a Calvin Harris song.
Yeah.
That's Promises, and I actually don't mind it. And I've had a lot of issues with Calvin Harris in the past, but this is like the more housey style of Calvin Harris.
Because I remember very early on in Audioface, we reviewed like funk groove beats
Yes,
or like
because Calvin Harris does a lot of sounds.
Funk Wave Bounces
Funk Wave
Volume
Bounces.
1.
There we go.
Yes.
Yeah, we did that a long time ago. I remember doing that. But this, I think, actually, I enjoy it on this album because I think it ends up in a little nice groovy beat because there's so much other stuff in that album. This is a very good ending track to just get you off on the good note of. Like there's a lot to listen to. There's a lot in there that can get deep and can get heavy, and this is a perfect breaker and a perfect ending for it. It's a good album. I enjoy it. There's a lot that leaves me wanting more. It leaves me wanting more experimentation because now Sam Smith has gone from this just gorgeous singer songwriter to now blossoming into one of the biggest musical artists in the world. And now it's okay. They've established themselves in a couple of different genres. Now let's see if they push forward and now start to experiment.
Yeah.
Which is, which I hope they do because it makes damn good music.
Yeah. I feel bad because I think Sam Smith is looking for that next sort of like what's
jump,
going to
yeah.
And I think if a lot of things had gone differently this year, where like Sam
Yeah.
Smith could have released the album in a normal release cycle, that could have happened maybe.
Yeah.
But now like there's so much music that's getting caught up in here. I don't know if this will like make it through the noise, but if you choose to like go through the noise and pick this album to listen to, it plays nicely enough decently through. And I think there are a couple songs in here that will pull your heartstrings, pull your emotion in a good way, which is at least what I expect Sam Smith to do. So
that's the issue with this year is that there's been so many big releases the past 2 months, especially that it's hard to kind of break out. And it's interesting for someone who has already had 2 very successful releases to see him. I mean, three or four of these songs have already had hundreds of millions of downloads and purchases and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's already been quite successful. But for the rest of the album, it'll be interesting to see because in the other regards, his other works, I'd like them a little bit more, but I'm glad to see more of a deviation because I was worried there to see if it was more. So
yeah, that song that I was struggling to remember. I am 90% sure I have it. No, yes, Pomegranate by
Pomegranate. That's Dead Mouse thing, right?
Yeah, and it was the song that kind of sounded like.
Yeah, I know that song off the top of my head.
Yeah, it was a song that kind of was in. I thought it could be a really cool thing because it was bringing in funk and dance and all these different things.
Dead Mouse and the Neptunes, by the way.
Yes, but and I thought I saw some of those things happening in with Sam Smith's album, especially kind of earlier in. But it was just one of the many sounds it took you on in this journey. Like I said, it's not like it's not a great album, but it's not like a collection of songs. Like it goes together in a way, but as an album, it still feels kind of big and nebulous. But it's thematically works, so more or less, it's good. Can we go on an arbitrary scale now?
Yeah. So that's one of my favorite arbitrary
Actually,
scales.
can I? No. I'm not gonna make it complicated. Let's leave it there.
Arbitrary scale is years in Nate Silver's life.
Nate Silver, the whiz kid pollster at 538, who
Whiz kid pollster. That's a way to say it.
yeah, he's the one who everyone blames for 2016 and getting the polls wrong. He would be the first to admit that it's not his fault, and I, as a somewhat credible person, would say it's not fully his fault.
Definitely not fully his fault, but it's still it's hilarious.
If there were a noted little bitch award for political punditry, Nate Silver would be like, it would be the Nate Silver noted little bitch award every single year.
Yeah.
And I'm saying this fully in mind, knowing that Dave Rubin.
Dave Rubin exists.
Nate Silver's country mile.
Oh yeah.
Because Nate Silver just does nothing but complaining about 2016.
Yep.
Even though, like, dude, you work at ABC, like, you managed to turn sports betting into a political job. Everyone hates you. You don't care. You make hundreds of thousands of dollars. Why do you? It's one of those people you just pay attention to Twitter too much, and it's not good for him. But it's very funny for me because it's entertaining. The arbitrary scale this week are years in Nate Silver's life. So we'll try to pick which year in Nate Silver's life is this album mostly like. I'm gonna say this is Nate Silver in like 1998 or whatever. Around that time he was in college. I think he studied at one of the nerd schools, University of Chicago maybe. And back then he was in the sports betting, and maybe he would have thought he had a chance at a sex life or something. But yeah, no. Also, by the way, he went to high school, college in like the early 90s. For reference, was born in 78. He's currently 42. So I'm going to say that's like 1993.
I'm going to say this is 2012 when Obama got reelected. And, it felt like a normal neoliberal world.
Oh, yeah. That's when like Nate Silver was his first attempt. And he's like, I can predict this within a couple of points. And he did. Mm-hmm. And that's how Nate Silver became like epic polls man for 4 years.
He's like, hey, okay, you just... Okay, then all the people who shorted the stock market in '08, are they all like just... do we go to them for stock advice now every day? But okay.
I mean, it's funny. Nate Silver has started giving out COVID statistics advice. And he's failed miserably in many ways, by the way. To the point
that does
where,
not surprise me.
To the point where people who work in medicine are telling Nate Silver to stop.
To shut the fuck
because
up.
people actually trust him, and he's giving bad information.
Does not surprise me.
Nate Silver, barely better than Fox News. Anyways.